The harness shop looked abandoned from a distance. That was probably why nobody wanted it. The old building sat alone in a wide mountain valley surrounded by pine forests and wild grass that reached nearly to the broken fence posts around the property. Rust covered most of the metal roofing. The front porch sagged slightly on one side. Half the sign above the entrance had faded away beneath years of weather. Turner Harness and Leather. Only a few letters remained visible, and according to Caleb's stepmother, that was his inheritance. Nothing more. 3 weeks earlier, after the funeral, she stood in the kitchen holding the estate paperwork with a thin smile stretched across her face. "Your father left you the shop," she said. Then came the pause, the one meant to hurt. "Try not to go bankrupt fixing saddles." By the end of the week, Caleb's clothes sat packed beside the front door. At 18 years old, he suddenly understood how quickly a house stops feeling like home once the person protecting you disappears. The property deed to the old harness shop was all he got. No savings. No truck. No land rights connected to the main ranch. Just a failing leather workshop deep in the mountains where nobody visited anymore. At least according to her. Now Caleb stood at the edge of the valley with a backpack over one shoulder, staring at the place his father left behind. The air smelled like pine trees and rain-soaked grass, while wind rolled softly through the mountains beyond. Beautiful. Quiet. Forgotten. And somehow, the shop still stood. Stubbornly. Like it refused to collapse out of principle. Caleb walked slowly toward the entrance. The closer he got, the stranger the building felt. Not abandoned. Maintained. The windows remained intact. The hinges on the doors looked newer than expected. Even the weeds around the porch had been cleared recently. His father had definitely been here before he died. Recently, the front door opened with a heavy groan. Warm leather scent drifted outward immediately. Not decay. Oil. Cedar wood. Worked leather. The smell of craftsmanship. Caleb stepped inside slowly. The workshop was larger than expected. Rows of saddles hung from wooden racks beside harness equipment and old stitching tables. Leatherworking tools lined the walls beneath organized shelves filled with brass fittings, buckles, and restoration supplies. Dust covered everything lightly, but not heavily. Someone maintained the place, or had until very recently. At the center of the room sat a massive oak work table still covered with half-finished leather pieces and handwritten measurements. His chest tightened slightly. His father's handwriting. "Still here. This place mattered to you," Caleb whispered. The family always treated the harness shop like an embarrassing leftover from another era. Nobody understood why his father spent so much time there. Now Caleb wasn't so sure it had anything to do with saddles at all. Then he noticed the 4 tracks. Fresh scraped marks crossed the wooden floorboards near the rear wall. Parallel lines. Heavy movement. Recent. His pulse quickened slightly. What moved back there? The marks disappeared beneath a large shelving unit, filled with leather rolls and storage crates. At first glance it looked permanent. Then Caleb noticed the steel rails hidden beneath the floor. Industrial rails. The shelving unit moved. He searched nearby until he found the mechanism. A rusted iron wheel partially hidden behind hanging harnesses. This is getting weird. Caleb turned the wheel slowly. Deep machinery groaned beneath the floor immediately. The entire shelving wall shifted sideways several feet, revealing a hidden steel elevator platform behind it. Cold air drifted upward from below. Industrial lights flickered faintly in the darkness beneath the shop. Caleb stepped backward in disbelief. No way. The platform sat recessed deep into the mountain beneath the building. Not a cellar. Something much larger. He stepped onto the elevator cautiously. The controls still worked. One switch remained labeled. Lower workshop. Caleb flipped it. The platform descended slowly beneath the harness shop, while hidden machinery echoed through the mountain. And the deeper he went, the larger the underground structure became. Concrete walls emerged beneath steel support beams. Warm industrial lighting flickered across polished floors and engineering stations hidden deep underground. Then the elevator fully lowered. And Caleb stopped moving completely. The underground facility stretched beneath the mountain like a hidden industrial fabrication garage. Prototype transport systems sat lined beside engineering workstations. Custom off-road vehicles occupied hydraulic lifts beneath suspended lighting rigs. Drafting tables overflowed with technical diagrams and mechanical blueprints. Nothing looked abandoned. Everything looked preserved. Operational. What is this place? Caleb walked slowly forward while trying to process what he was seeing. This wasn't a leather shop. Not really. It was an engineering facility hidden beneath one. Then he noticed the binders. Large, organized files stacked near the nearest drafting table. Transport systems, patent records, licensing agreements, royalty payments. His heartbeat sped up immediately. No, there was no chance. He opened the nearest folder carefully. Engineering schematics filled the pages. Mountain transport stabilization systems, heavy load suspension designs, emergency terrain mobility systems. Then came the contracts. Mining companies, search and rescue organizations, utility contractors, international transport manufacturers, and beneath everything, current royalty records. Current, not historical. Caleb flipped through more files faster now. The deeper he looked, the clearer it became. His father hadn't been hiding in the mountains repairing harnesses. He had been designing specialized transport systems quietly licensed across multiple industries. And apparently, nobody in the family realized it, or cared enough to look deeper. Then Caleb noticed the photograph. A framed image sitting alone at the center workbench. His father stood inside this underground workshop smiling beside a prototype mountain transport vehicle. Below the frame, handwritten words read, "Let them think you're outdated." Caleb slowly looked around the hidden facility again. All those years the family mocked the worthless harness shop. Meanwhile, an entire engineering operation existed hidden beneath it. Then he noticed the envelope waiting beside the photograph. His name written across the front. Caleb. His pulse pounded harder now, because suddenly, he understood the hidden elevator wasn't the real secret. It was only the entrance to whatever his father actually intended to leave him. Caleb stood alone in the underground workshop while the soft hum of hidden generators echoed through the mountain around him. The envelope sat untouched beside the framed photograph. For a long moment, he simply stared at his father's handwriting across the front. Because suddenly, nothing about the last few weeks made sense anymore. Not the old shop. Not the inheritance. Not the way his father quietly disappeared into the mountains for years while everyone assumed he was wasting time restoring leather equipment. Slowly, Caleb opened the envelope. Inside sat a handwritten letter, several access cards, and a thick packet of documents bound together with metal clips. His father's handwriting covered the first page in careful block letters. "If you found the lower workshop, then your stepmother underestimated the shop exactly the way I expected." Caleb laughed softly despite himself. "That sounds about right." He kept reading. "The harness shop above protected the operation below because people stop looking closely once they decide something is outdated." His eyes drifted slowly across the underground facility again. Prototype vehicles, engineering systems, drafting stations. Nothing about this place matched the image his family carried around about his father. The letter continued. "Most industries chase whatever looks modern. Very few pay attention to systems that simply work reliably for decades." Attached beneath the letter sat ownership summaries and licensing records. The underground workshop specialized in extreme terrain transport systems designed for mountain operations where ordinary vehicles failed. Mining routes, search and rescue access, utility infrastructure, disaster response transport. His father developed suspension systems and stabilization technology specifically for dangerous terrain environments. And instead of building a public company, he licensed the systems quietly. Long-term, low visibility, consistent control. Caleb stared at the royalty summaries in disbelief. The payments weren't flashy billionaire money. They were better, reliable, steady. The kind of income built from useful systems industries still depended on. Then one sentence stopped him completely. "I left this to you because you cared how things worked long before you cared what people thought about them." His throat tightened slightly. Because that was true too. As a kid, Caleb spent hours in the harness shop asking questions about mechanical systems while everyone else got bored and left. Even when he didn't fully understand what his father was building, he wanted to learn. Apparently, his father noticed. The packet also contained a map of additional underground sections hidden deeper beneath the mountain. Storage bays, testing tunnels, fabrication chambers, and one location marked carefully in red. Primary Design Archive. Caleb used one of the access cards to unlock the archive room hidden behind reinforced steel doors near the rear of the workshop. The room beyond looked less like a garage and more like a private engineering vault. Rows of climate-controlled cabinets lined the walls. Blueprints filled drafting shelves from floor to ceiling. Prototype suspension systems sat displayed beneath glass cases. At the center stood a massive terrain model showing mountain routes, mining corridors, and emergency access systems integrated across rough terrain. His father hadn't just designed vehicles. He built entire mobility systems for regions most companies considered too difficult or unprofitable. The contracts proved it. Several major infrastructure companies still used modified versions of his stabilization systems throughout mountain regions internationally. And somehow, nobody in the family knew. No, Caleb corrected himself immediately. Nobody cared enough to understand what they were looking at. That realization stayed with him for months afterward. Because rebuilding his life after that wasn't dramatic. It was practical. Attorneys reviewed the licensing structures. Patent specialists verified ownership. Transport companies requested meetings almost immediately once the transfer became official. At first, nobody took Caleb seriously. An 18-year-old inheriting a hidden engineering operation beneath a mountain harness shop sounded ridiculous. Then the documents got reviewed. Every contract checked out. Every patent remained active. Several licensing agreements were overdue for renegotiation because his father prioritized long-term reliability over aggressive expansion. Then came the buyout offers. Huge ones. Enough money to erase every problem in Caleb's life immediately. His stepmother probably expected him to sell quickly, take the money, disappear quietly. But his father anticipated that too. One final note remained attached inside the design archive. Do not trade ownership for temporary relief unless survival leaves no choice. So Caleb didn't sell. Instead, he learned mechanical engineering, licensing structures, prototype fabrication. The hidden workshop still maintained relationships with a handful of specialists his father trusted for years. A retired systems engineer named Walter taught Caleb how the transport systems functioned in real-world mountain conditions. A fabrication expert helped him understand the prototype testing equipment. An accountant walked him through the royalty networks connected to the patents. Slowly, the underground workshop came alive again. Not publicly, quietly. Exactly the way his father intended. The harness shop above also changed carefully. Roof repairs, structural reinforcement, updated power systems. But Caleb intentionally preserved the old appearance. From the outside, it still looked like a forgotten leather workshop hidden in the mountains. That anonymity protected everything underneath. Inside, though, the operation expanded steadily. Prototype testing resumed. Transport contractors returned. Search and rescue companies renewed agreements. Word spread quietly through specialized industries that Turner Terrain Systems was operational again. One autumn evening nearly a year after inheriting the shop, Caleb stood outside the old harness building watching sunsets spread gold across the valley below. Warm light glowed through the workshop windows behind him while hidden machinery hummed beneath the mountain. His phone buzzed with another acquisition inquiry from a major transport manufacturer. He silenced it immediately, then looked back toward the harness shop. His stepmother thought the inheritance was worthless because she only saw leather tools and an old mountain building. Most people stop asking questions once appearances confirm their assumptions. And that became the lesson Caleb carried forward more than anything else. Real value often hides beneath things the world dismisses too quickly. Old trades, quiet systems, patient work, long-term ownership. The hidden workshop beneath the harness shop didn't save him because it made him rich. It saved him because it gave him control over something stable, something useful, something capable of building a future instead of depending on someone else's permission to survive. His father hadn't left him a worthless shop. He left him an entire infrastructure hidden beneath everyone else's assumptions. And now, for the first time since being thrown out, Caleb finally understood he had inherited far more than a building.